Have you ever felt emotions so deeply that you just can't be sure if they're yours or not? In this video, I'm gonna go over some key signs that you're an empath and what that can mean for you. The first key is being an emotional sponge. Empaths have heightened sensitivity to the world around them. They're able to pick up on those emotional and energetic cues a lot sharper and quicker than other people. And in turn, without that awareness that they're an empath, it can be really hard to navigate where your energy and your emotions end and where the ones around you begin. So when you're in crowds, if you get very drained because you can pick up on the person in a rush and the person that's frustrated and the person that's nervous and the person that's really excited, if you can pick up on all of those things in a concert crowd, in a Walmart crowd, at the mall during holiday shopping, if you're able to get kind of overstimulated and ungrounded and overwhelmed in those settings, that's a really big sign you're an empath. Having boundaries and awareness for your own energy field can be really powerful in navigating those types of settings. Just because you're an empath doesn't mean you can't go in crowds and you can't handle stores, but it might just take a little bit more awareness and recuperation afterwards. It might take sitting in the car before you enter the crowd to check in with yourself, see how you're feeling, see what you're sensing, and move through that more saturated location with that awareness and sense of how you are, where you're at in this moment, and understanding that anything around you is separate from you. Another key can be being drained quickly, especially around negative energy. If you're someone that runs on the optimistic side, but also runs on the sensitive side, it can be really difficult when you're immersed in and engaging with other energies that are a bit more negative or pessimistic or dense and draining, and being in those energies that you're picking up on that negativity and that density, it can dim your light and run you dry a bit and cause you to need a lot more time to recoup and recharge afterwards. A second key would be having a deep intuition. If your gut lets you know of things before they even happen, if you're getting information that someone's going to reach out to you or something interesting is going to come from something, and I'm not talking about anxious thoughts, I'm talking about the ones that literally come from your vessel, like in your gut. You have this feeling that something dense is coming, or something tense is coming, or something challenging is coming, and you're right. Whether when you go to start your day, you just have this feeling that you're going to run late, even though you've done everything in your morning routine on time, and then lo and behold, there's an accident on the throughway and you just knew. Or you've been thinking about someone that you haven't connected with in a little while, and later on that day or week, they reach out to you and you just knew. There's different ways that our intuition guides us, and by having that heightened sense of the energies around us that empaths have, one of those heightened senses is also our intuition, is also that knowing that is a little bit harder to explain and decipher, and it's the I just know aspects that kind of show us what's going on and can tell us a little bit more of a situation without having technical, clear context for it. A third component is what I call compassion overload. Compassion overload happens when someone's going through something and you just cannot help but really want to help serve them and make a situation better and support them or work with them, help them physically, emotionally, mentally, any of those aspects, because you know that they really need that kind of support, because you can feel where they are and where would be preferred, and you really want to try and help and bridge that gap with them. Another example of this would be pretty straightforward, but when reading books or watching movies or listening to music, if something really joyful happens or really sad happens, you can't help but cry. It's when you're watching a wedding in a movie and you cry, or when you're reading a book and there's heartbreak and you cry. Being able to sense the different emotions, even if they're in situations that aren't quite real. Just the fact that that's the emotional state happening around you, you get consumed by it. A fourth component is having a strong connection to animals and nature. If you find your mind can quiet down, if you feel like you can breathe and expand and feel more grounded and connected when you go in nature, that is a really big sign you are an empath. There's a lot of chaos and movement in this world that we're in with all of the manufactured aspects of the world, whether it's living in a city or having stores and stimuli and technology and all of these things. Some of that can be really draining. So if you're someone that finds nature to be especially grounding, if you find yourself able to connect with animals a bit deeper, and animals can't speak, but if you're able to sense their needs and figure out what they're looking for or asking for, or even sensing when they're starting to run anxious or nervous or excited or overstimulated or overtired, any of these aspects, if you're able to tune into animals, pets, even wildlife, including nature, a little bit more seamlessly, that's a huge sign you're an empath. And an exercise I would practice if you are someone that relates to and connects with nature and animals maybe a little bit more fluidly than with people is listening to them. Just sitting in their company and trusting your gut with whatever information comes through. Taking a deep breath and grounding yourself and connecting to your own energy and closing your eyes and touching a tree and seeing what it has to say, or closing your eyes and letting the sun hit your face and seeing what information you get, or even just paying a little bit closer attention to your pets, when they're scratching or they're burying or they're kneading or they're pacing. If you're able to tune into a little bit more cleanly what that means and what they might need, and you're able to tend to those needs pretty intuitively, that's a huge sign that you're an empath, because you're picking up on the energies in your surroundings. And the fifth aspect I'll leave you with is the need for solitude. And I'm not saying all of the alone time. I'm saying after having a busy week, a busy day, being in crowds, after any of those types of situations where you are in a lot of energy, you need time separate from every other energy to ground yourself, to focus on yourself, to recalibrate and recharge yourself back to where your baseline is, back to where your calmness and your batteries can recharge, and just doing those little aspects of things, but realizing that it is those high stimuli settings and situations that cause you to need that separation and quiet time afterwards. That's a huge sign you're an empath, because picking up on and sensing and reading all of these different energies around us, especially when there's multiple energies around us, can be extremely tiring, because our radar is always going, and in turn our vessel is always fluctuating in terms of what we're feeling and thinking and picking up on. By having that time separate to rest, to recharge, to recalibrate, that's a huge sign you're an empath. Once you're able to separate yourself from all those different energies, that's when you're able to get back to baseline, kind of clear your field, shake it off, come back to center, and let it all go. So do any of these sound like you? If any of them more specifically resonate, I would love to hear. I would love to learn about your story and what aspects of being an empath you resonate with most deeply, or any tips or tricks or tools that you've noticed along the way that have helped you out a bunch too. Stay blessed.